You might not have just seen that, but I was saying I thought he pressed all the appropriate buttons, but Paul hadn't actually pressed record. Anyway, it's Andy from Snow Camps Europe here with Paul from the Ski Instructor Academy here in Kaprun, Austria, with another podcast. And today, Paul, we are talking about what?
We are talking about John Jacoby commented on my home and mountain, Mount Hood, just opened for summer season.
Canada?
Yes, for the glacier. The lifts have been mostly closed or on standby because the not at all unusual spring weather is bringing continued dumps on the Palmer, hopefully restoring its lost glacier status. There's 140 inches, by the way, he says, not centimetres.
So what is
inches, you know.
140 inches.
Well, isn't old Boris Haystacks Johnson saying that he's going to go back to old inches and all that stuff, pounds and things? Anyway, he says that the snowfield's looking more like a glacier again. I hope to get a few turns in. But he goes on, this is what the topic of the conversation's about, actually. He then goes on to mention about racers. So he says, Wednesday seems like the race campers will all be there madding at the gates, so the lift lines will be strident any time Palmer operates. With all the race lanes booked, I don't recommend tourists visit to ski. It's intimidating to recreational skiers to be in a lift line with general calibre of racers in training. You can't see anything because of the sharpness of their focus. Too sharp, sometimes socially blunt. Good one. So I think this is an interesting comment because we have that similar problem on the glaciers here not in the summer season, but in the pre-season. So in November, when the glaciers are in full swing and ski resorts aren't open, all these people just descend on the place, particularly from, like Holland and from Germany, from everywhere.
Hungary, Romania, Germany. The British come.
The British come, yeah. Ski races as well.
Not just the English.
The
British come.
We're being as good as we can, Peter. We're being well behaved.
But yeah, they come from everywhere, didn't they? And they just park themselves anywhere and everywhere. Obviously, there are the race lanes, but then a lot of the Eastern Europeans with the kids especially, they just seem to just put their gates wherever they want at the top on what we would be using as a coaching slope. I
think the most annoying thing is they encourage rudeness basically by just telling the kids just to push their way to the front. And they literally, you can see them telling them to do that. You just keep pushing your way in circle because the trainer will just stand at the gates. He won't be bothering with all the lift lines and stuff. And he just tends to just have the kids rotating round. And he's just telling them literally to push to the front, which they'll do. And, unless they meet a person like myself with the ski pole.
Somebody who is socially blunt.
Socially blunt, like me.
I quite like that.
Yeah, I like that word. I am very socially blunt. I don't know. The trouble is because I have eyes like 360 degrees. I see these people making their way stealthily through the lift queue, and as they approach me, it's just like you ain't going any further, mate. Like that's the end of your try. And it's not because I'm in any hurry to get on the lift either. It's just I just see it as such a disrespect to everybody else. And it starts from the very bottom of these glaciers, right at the bottom at, whatever altitude. And they've got to go up through all these lift systems to get up high on a glacier. And it is just, it's brutal, to be honest, isn't it? It's absolutely brutal. And of course, they all want their own gondola with just two people in so they can grab in 50 tons worth of ski boots and skis and stuff.
And I was, as you went to say that, I was about to say about the backpacks. And the backpacks for most of the kids, not even the adults, the backpacks are so big, they've got so much gear in there. Then they want to get into the gondola. They want to start getting kitted up in the gondola, don't they? So that's their.
So they block everybody else getting on.
It's their inner boots, their outer boots. It's
two
their
pairs
helmets.
of skis.
Yeah, they've got 2, if not 3 pair of skis. Some of them, they've got all sorts of different things that they're putting on, and that in itself is as annoying as them taking up the race lanes and the non-race lanes is the gondola up. And then what do they want to do on the way down? They want to get undressed in the gondola on the way down. So you sometimes you can come down the glacier in Kaprun and quite often get into a gondola and then go, shit, I've got into the wrong gondola here. It's full of kids with backpacks.
I mean, I'm lucky because I get to go up the lift lines in the morning, bypass all those people and go up before the lifts are open. But the issue with that is when I get up there, I think it's about 7:45, I would generally go up a gondola in the morning. The lifts don't open officially till about 8:10, 8:15. There's already literally 100 or 200 kids outside.
Yeah.
And I just look and think, they're going to stand them around for 30 minutes at least. And they're already getting anxious, you can see them. And then, like you say, the doors open and it's just a manic charge and a push. And officially, on the gondola system at the bottom, I think you can get 24 officially on that gondola system with the way it's positioned. You'd be lucky if 8 or 10 people get on that gondola, because there's that many backpacks and stuff. And so then, of course, you get up, they all pile themselves into the Alpine Centre, they're all getting ready, they're all warming up, whatever they do. And then the next charge is obviously up onto the hill. And this is where the problems start with the safety, is because a lot of the kids, they don't warm up properly. What they do is they've got big GS skis on, even young kids will have relatively big skis on, and they are hammering down the mountain and they can't control the pressure, so they get straighter and straighter, and it's just a danger for our groups because we're making controlled turns, teaching people how to look after groups of people, so we're more interested in slower parallel skiing at first, and then you've got these racers coming down like bullets, And
again, this goes back to you saying about eyes in the back of your head. I quite often, on those days in November when we're up there, I'm literally, with every turn, I'm looking over my shoulder.
Yeah. It's uncomfortable skiing because you're so concerned for your guest. I can remember when I was teaching up there, it was just like literally turning your head on every turn, and not for you, but for the people behind you, because you're aware they're focused on something that you're telling them to do. So you feel the need to keep them out the way as much as you possibly can.
Yeah, you're almost being their eyes as well as your own eyes, aren't you?
And then you've got to educate them how to use the lifts. In the queues, you've got to say to them, look, I'm not telling you to push forward. What I'm telling you to do is provide yourselves a sort of barrier. Widen your shoulders, barrier yourself, so people cannot just keep. Otherwise, they don't move. Yeah. I can remember being in my early days as a ski instructor. It was funny because I would get to the top of a lift and I'd be waiting for about 15 minutes for the guests who were next to me at the start. It's like, where did you go? And they went, oh, I was just so busy. They literally weren't moving because people were coming around the side of them.
You've got to be active, haven't you? You've got to continue to be active, but not driving yourself through the crowd, which is what these racer kids are doing. Yeah. So they are literally pushing through. You're being active, that you're continually moving along with the flow. Yeah. And then the people who aren't moving don't go up there so quick.
Exactly. And then obviously you've got to put to the side of your skis. You just look at it and think, at first when you're learning to be a ski instructor and stuff, you've got your new skis and you want to look after them. I just gave up on that a long time ago. Now, if people are standing all over my skis, it's like, whatever, just stand on top of them if you want to. But I'm not going to let you in front of us because you're standing on top of my skis. It ain't happening, So, I can see exactly where John's coming in his advice of saying, look, I wouldn't advise somebody skiing up there. I can get that. We're not great big fans of glacier skiing in the summer anyway, no matter how good it appears to be. That's why we go to Argentina, we go to New Zealand, because it's their winter, and you get proper winter conditions. And that allows you to ski on lots of runs, whereas John will be, I'm sure, stuck to several runs. He's talking about the Palmer. In our case, it's often the Kitts Cays area, and you just hope that more snow comes. But even if more snow comes at the start of the season, a lot of the time the ski glaciers aren't man-powered enough to open up other runs, are they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're working on a smaller team. And going back to the summer thing, because we've spoken about the summer skiing on the Glacier from before and said how we don't really recommend it at the moment. I don't even know if any of the ski lifts are open. If they are, there's just the one magnet cop at the top, because it's just nothing but rain and rain and rain for 2 weeks. Now, I'm not saying the weather has been bad if you're coming on holiday. The weather's been good, but we get a lot of alpine storms. But the funny thing is, Multar Glacier, which normally stays open all year round, is closed this summer. And there's no real explanation for it. It just says on their website, unfortunately will not be open for skiing. And I think it was the one in France, and I want to say Des Alpes, but I might be wrong, but there was one of the French ones that hasn't opened this summer. Now, I'm thinking that's more to do with COVID hangover,
costs,
staffing
or whatever.
Going back to the war in the Ukraine, and staffing, because everywhere is so short of staff. And again, going to what you just said, I worry about November in how much of the Glacier will be open, because they for sure are going to be struggling for catering staff, piston buddy drivers, lift attendants, and like everybody is as we are now.
Yeah, they're certainly going to have to be paying good wages to encourage people to actually work in these seasonal jobs. That's what's going to happen there.
Slightly off on a tangent, but with what you've just said about paying seasonal jobs, I know a restaurant in Capron who needs a chef, and chefs are calling them and saying, "You need a chef." And they go, "Yes, we do." And they says, "Okay, I want $3,000 a month. I want 2 days off a week. I want my accommodation and my food." And the restaurant's going, "Well, we pay $2,000 and it's 6 days a week." "Okay, goodbye."
Yeah.
And that's happening every single day.
Which is, as you know, my partner's a chef, and I've always said that if
you want to get him out to work,
if he wants to work, then exactly. But I says if the Glitchline constantly asks, and I say if you ever go back, then that would be the situation, because you're in such a high demand at the minute. It got that way, didn't it, in the UK a while back, with the likes of, builder contractors, plumbers, plasterers and stuff. We're getting more than a surgeon or something, because they have that skill. It's interesting, when on earth is it going to happen for ski instructors? That's going to be such an important skill that ski instructors will get paid a lot of money. It's probably not going to happen in my lifetime.
No, I was going to say long after we're gone. But I think the current state of affairs in Austria, anyway, is 35,000 gastronomy vacancies. Yeah, and something like 100 or so thousand in tourism. It's bonkers. But yeah, races on the Glacier.
Yeah, John's got a good point there, and I think often he comes up with some very interesting comments and advice. And here, don't get me wrong, it's important that we recognise the importance of race camps, race teams, because obviously it provides athletes for the future at high-end sport levels. But what you tend to see a lot of these race camps as is it's, again, people with high-end money coming in with their kids, paying for them to come on like an almost glorified ski holiday, thinking they're going to be the next Dave Ryder or whatever it is. And maybe they will be, But again, I mean, this is the issue. And, looking more and more into, let's say, sports like boxing, MMA, fighting style sports, if you look at all the best fighters in the world, they've all came from a very low income poverty background. Okay. That's where people come from, and that's where generally the best athletes do come from, because they have a desire and a drive and a passion to push themselves as hard as they can. Now, skiing, of course, is a little bit different. When you see the people who, when you watch the Strife, for example, remember that the Strife? Was you watching? Yeah. And there was a guy on, was he from Russia or somewhere? And he was traveling with his mother everywhere, and he had no sponsorship, and he was Eastern European somewhere. Maybe he's Ukrainian, I don't know. Yeah. And he was traveling around, and obviously there was a good example of, in skiing it's a bit different because you need a lot of background money, because unlike boxing or whatever, you go to a boxing gym, you have a trainer. In skiing, you've got to be able to go from resort to resort, travel and live, and it is a richer man's sport to me. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, for sure. And you only have to look at the British team when they come to Capron in November. They're normally based in Logang, and they ski on the Glacier. And yeah, the kids that are in the 7 to 12 age bracket, the 12 to 14, you just have to listen to them in the lift, and look at what they've got with them, with their 2-3 pair of skis. They are coming from money. You don't often see one who kind of trips into the lift with his one pair of skis who is there because he's raw talent.
Yeah.
It's normally money first, talent second.
Let us know what you think about that. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who in the comments will probably have a go at us, for saying, it's not all about silver spoon. But generally for you as a parent to back up, your child, you probably do need to have excess wealth to be able to do that. Because it is an expensive sport.
If you're outside of an alpine nation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the big problem.
If you're Franz Klammer, who used to walk up the hill behind the farm in Bradkine, Kirkine, fine. But we're talking British, the Dutch, etc., the ones that come and fill the Glacier in November.
And there's nothing to say that they won't become the world's number one.
Oh, no.
Great for them if they do. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, and hopefully they do.
But I think sometimes the desire and the drive is not quite the same. Like I said before, if we talk about more raw sports like boxing or MMA, if you look at those people, they've come from somewhere that even, we can't imagine how bad their life was, how they were treated when they were young, and they've battled their way through, and it's that passion and that drive, that Mike Tyson sort of thing, that's got them to the top of the sport. And that's why a lot of people who then get to the top fail, because suddenly they have money, they and they get soft, and this is the issue. So yeah, I mean, let us know about that. But excellent comment, John. Really interesting, and I think we've made our opinion known that, as much as we understand the necessity for the fact that there's races on the hill and all this sort of stuff, sometimes ski resorts forget that these periods about the tourists, and they don't protect them in the right way. And in some way, maybe there's going to end up having to be a system where it says, hey, if you've got a race lane and race lanes, stick to your race lane. Do not be skiing on the piste over there, because that's for tourists to go down at a slower speed. And maybe there has to be, and I don't like it when there are rules and stuff, but maybe there does have to be a speed limit down a certain part of the piste where people can still learn to ski slowly and safety, away from these people who are absolutely hooning down on GS.
Yeah, because I suppose in the way that the glacier here is set up, and let's just use the training area, once they come down the training area through the gates and they get their feedback from the coach, they've then got another half of the piste to get to the lift. Whatever he's giving them as feedback, they're not going to wait till they get back to the top and kind of try and do. They're going to do it straight away. Oh, he wants me to do this. Right, I'll do that now on my way to the lift.
Yeah. And as I say, it's not so bad if they're on slalom skis and they're going down doing slalom style turns, but anybody on a long ski who's doing giant slalom turns, and then of course you add to that, you then can have the alpine border, the race borders.
Yes, because we get them here as well, don't we?
Yeah, you know what I mean? We all know how that is for them. Very difficult on their backside turns and stuff. Can they keep an eye on people? It's also hard. The collisions are one of the biggest concerns for ski instructors, the biggest concerns for ski pistes. And nowadays, it doesn't matter what happens on the slopes here in Austria. If two people collide, even if they know each other, it has to be reported to the police, which is a right hassle as well. Yeah. So, very, very interesting. Oh, the lights went out.
Something did just go off, didn't it?
Oh, my light went out. It's given up on me. It's put me in the dark. But I think it's trying to tell us to shut up, Andy.
Possibly.
Yeah. Say goodbye, Andy.
Goodbye, Andy.
Goodbye, Paul.